The autumn night hung heavy with darkness, the moon casting eerie shadows across the landscape. 3 teenage boys, Rob, Skeeter, and Cole, high school juniors with a knack for trouble, found themselves driving deep into their pastoral setting. They had ventured out late on a school night, prepared only for buffoonery and evading the consequences by skipping school the next day. Rob maneuvered his car near the old Henson farm and parked on the side of the road, its engine humming softly. He had driven slowly with the headlights off for the last half-mile, so as not to alert anyone to their presence. The trio got out of the car, closing the doors as quietly as possible. A cool breeze flowed between them. This was a familiar spot for them, a place they had visited a few times for its abandoned barn and secluded surroundings. A single streetlight struggled to fend off the oppressive darkness, its light partially obscured by the looming branches of an ancient oak tree. A sense of mystery clung to the air. Tales of the farm's history had been told for almost 30 years. Old Man Henson, the owner, was shrouded in rumors. A possible murderer who had somehow escaped the consequences of his actions. Rob leaned against his car, a mischievous glint in his eye as he glanced toward the barn. "This place gives me the creeps, you know," he remarked, his voice tinged with amusement. "They say Henson did some messed up stuff here." Skeeter, unimpressed, scoffed at the rumors. "That thing with the pitchfork, right?" he said. "Man, you and your stories. Henson would be old as dirt now. Just some helpless old man, if he's even still alive." Cole, known for his calm demeanor, joined the conversation. "Besides, it's probably not even true." He held up the 6-pack he was holding, as if to remind the others, and he knew exactly what Rob was trying to do. Yeah, Rob replied with a grin. The wire fence surrounding the pasture had once been considered high tension, but it now sagged and drooped all around the property. When the boys reached it, Cole pulled up the wire so the others could climb through, and then Skeeter returned the favor for Cole. They walked past the ancient oak and made their way around to the front of the barn, scanning the pasture for movement. There was one dim light in the window of a house on the other side of the pasture. Someone was home at the old farmhouse. They quickly ducked into the barn. Despite their bravado, the barn's darkness seemed to stir something within them. Shadows danced around the structure, breathing life into the tales of Henson's crime. Rob was a master of pranks, and his favorite line was, "Got you good." He had perfected the art of scaring his friends, much to their chagrin, and he surely intended to at some point while they were here. Tonight, however, the barn's atmosphere was more potent than he had anticipated. The weight of the night seemed to settle upon them. They moved 3 cinder blocks into the middle of the open dirt floor, the only place inside the barn where they could even see each other, and made themselves comfortable. Cole lit a cigarette, the ember glowing in the dim light, while Skeeter and Rob each cracked open a beer. They sat there for a while, bantering, roasting each other over girl troubles and poor grades. Eventually, during a break in the conversation, Rob's gaze shifted from the booze to the gloom-shrouded corners of the barn. "You know," he said, his voice laced with a hint of nervousness, "I'm pretty much convinced old man Henson actually did murder someone with a pitchfork all those years ago. Got away with it, too." Skeeter rolled his eyes, uninterested in Rob's attempts to spook them. "You can't be serious," Cole chimed in, siding with Skeeter. "Let it go, man," he said to Rob. "Can't we just chill?" Rob sighed. "Fine," he said, standing up. "Well, I gotta take a leak. Don't drink my beer." He walked out of the barn and disappeared around the side somewhere. Cole shook his head. He knew what was coming. After about 5 minutes, despite his skepticism, Skeeter's eyes flicked toward the barn's entrance and he frowned. "Where's Rob?" he asked, his gaze focused on the front door. Cole smirked, recognizing Rob's tactics all too well. "He's messing with us," said Cole. "He wants us to go out there and look for him. I'm not giving him the satisfaction." Another 5 minutes ticked by, and Rob's cinderblock remained unoccupied, the air growing thick with tension. Skeeter's unease escalated, and he stood up, making his way to the entrance. He muttered under his breath, "If he's trying to scare us, it's not going to work." Outside, the night seemed even darker, and the rustling of tree branches set Skeeter's nerves on edge. Rob's absence gnawed at him, and he was about to call out when he heard a muffled thud nearby. Skeeter's heart raced, and he took a cautious step forward. Just outside the barn, trying to discern the source of the sound. Back in the barn, Cole waited, his patience wearing thin. He grabbed Rob's beer and finished it out of spite. He could see Skeeter's silhouette in the doorway, his attention fixed on something beyond. Cole smirked, waiting for the punchline that Rob had planned for them. As long as said punchline was dealt to Skeeter, Cole might offer a chuckle. But Cole did not like to be jump-scared. Skeeter's anxiety bubbled over. He decided to return to his seat. But as he stepped back into the barn, Rob dropped in from the loft above and landed on his feet between his friends, scaring them both. "Ha!" he yelled, his voice shattering the silence. And then a long, manic cackle. "Got you good," he proclaimed. There it was. Cole knew it was coming. Skeeter's irritation was palpable. "Seriously?" he asked. "You keep talking about Old Man Henson," said Cole. "But you're the one who's going to have him chasing us out of here, probably with a shotgun." Rob laughed again, quite amused by himself. Shaking his head in annoyance, Skeeter backed toward the barn door. "Now I have to pee." He squinted his eyes at Rob. "Child," he said, then turned and exited the barn. Rob was about to sit when he realized his beer was gone. Cole smiled slyly. Rob kicked dirt on one of Cole's sneakers, and they both laughed. Rob started to sit again when his hand reached for his phone, which was usually in his back pocket. It wasn't there. He groaned, stood upright, and turned toward the barn door. "Where are you going?" Cole asked. "Left my phone in the car," Rob answered. "I'll be right back." Now alone in the barn, Cole was adamant that he wouldn't be fooled again. Not this time. Rob rounded the barn on the opposite side from where Skeeter went to relieve himself. He passed beneath the ancient oak, moving through the shadows toward the fence, separating him from his car. The rustling of leaves seemed to dance in time with his heartbeat. He climbed through the fence, his steps growing hesitant as the breeze and tree limbs whispered softly. Inside the car, he grabbed his phone from one of the cup holders. Suddenly, there was a loud thud back at the barn. He spun around quickly to look, but the darkness obscured his view. He waited silently for a few seconds, seeing no movement. Then he decided his friends had clearly teamed up for some retribution. Rob laughed to himself. He knew he probably deserved it. He got out of the car, closed the door, and climbed through the fence. As he was passing the oak, he spotted something over by the darker side of the barn, the side where Skeeter had gone. It looked like the sleeve of Skeeter's sweatshirt, just barely sticking out around the corner of the building. Rookie mistake, Rob thought. He casually walked to the barn and rounded that very corner, awaiting his jump scare. But that's not what he found. Skeeter's body, impaled upon the side of the barn, bore a pitchfork that seemed to reach through him, pinning him to the wood. His face was frozen in time, echoing the terror he must have felt in his last moments. Rob's world spun, his mind refusing to accept what lay before him. The truth, brutal and unforgiving, was a nightmare too twisted to comprehend. Desperation clawed at Rob as he quickly staggered back into the barn. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers trembling, and turned on the flashlight. He swept the beam across the barn, revealing traces of their night of revelry, the booze, the cigarettes, and the blood splatters that now marred the scene. There was blood everywhere, and Cole was nowhere in sight. Rob's heart raced, his thoughts a jumble of disbelief and panic. His voice trembled as he whispered to himself, "This has to be a joke, it has to be." He said it again and again. His words echoed through the barn, his mind struggling to comprehend the sickening tableau before him. Reality shifted as the horror of the situation unfolded, but reality would not be denied. Panic gripped him, a realization that he was trapped within a nightmare that defied explanation. He fled the barn, past the oak tree that loomed like a sentinel, its branches swaying in the wind, through the old wire fence. The darkness of the night seemed to envelop him, and as he jumped into his car, his trembling hands struggled to get the key into the ignition. He never made it. A hand emerged from the darkness of the back seat, grasping his hair and yanking him back with brutal force. A blade punctured the car seat from behind, its cruel bite sinking through the middle of Rob's back and exiting his stomach. He was frozen in shock, his gaze locked on the rearview mirror, where a face materialized, twisted with malevolence.
"Got you good,"
said the gravelly voice of a helpless old man.